You talk about the children. Here's what I'd say. Do we know that during the last administration, we had tens of thousands of children who were sex trafficked by the cartels, who were brought into our country in profoundly dangerous and predatory conditions?
Let's talk about this administration.
But here's the point. Unless you enforce the border, you invite that kind of conduct. You think that our immigration policies are inhumane based on the reporting of one person with a political bias. What I'm telling you is that it's inhumane to allow cartels to sex traffic people across our border. And by the way,
please hold on.
I appreciate that. We're going to get you back, Anna.
We're coming back.
Vice President J.D. Vance stepping into the lion's den, making a rare appearance on The View, a show known for its outspoken liberal host and fiery political debates. From immigration and the economy to President Trump's agenda and the 2026 midterms, Vance faced pushback. Intense at times, but mostly cordial. Radio host Kevin Jackson with us today. Kevin, good to see you. Thanks for joining the show today. A lot to talk about. We're going to start with The View. We've been anticipating this appearance for quite some time. From Whoopi Goldberg to Anna Navarro, what stood out to you the most?
What stood out to me is that they invited him. This is a group of people that for nearly a decade have been preaching to a shrinking congregation of wine-sipping leftists, and suddenly they invite J.D. Vance. And the thing it was a great interview, that piece even right there, just that particular interchange where J.D. Vance is explaining, hey, we got all these kids that we've saved, and whoa, hold on. We know that 300,000 kids had disappeared during the Obama and Biden administrations, and here the Trump administration's finding these kids, and these people can't find anything good about that. And that was just in that exchange. The other thing that got me was, why not go right to the top? Why not invite Donald Trump? You invited the VP, and the reason is, the Joy Behars of the world that used to be fans of Trump before he became president, now they talk smack about him with every episode. They're the daytime Jimmy Kimmels, if you will. And so they invite J.D. Vance on because I think part of it is they're watching their ratings go down. They need to appear to be balanced. I think part of it's obviously the change in leadership and ownership of their network, which is saying we got to be a little more fair and balanced. But you could see they still behave the same way. I'm looking at Anna Navarro's body language every time J.D. Vance says something sane. Like, hey, do you understand that we're protecting kids and reuniting them with their families? And they're like, yeah, but what? What can you possibly say against what this administration has done in closing the border, stopping the rape of these women, the sex trafficking of the women and the children, the drugs that are coming over, et cetera? What can you possibly say to that that's negative? But they can't find it.
You're absolutely right. And I watched Anna Navarro's body language as well. Kevin, I don't know if you noticed, not only was it her back talk to him, cutting him off, she also sat right next to him. And instead of sitting inward toward him to have a conversation, she had her shoulder turned away from him. And she would look over her other shoulder to talk to him and talk back to him. So surprisingly to me, she was the worst one yesterday. Whoopi Goldberg did have a few questions for him, but for the overall tone, she was very pleasant, in my opinion, to Vice President J.D. Vance, Joy Behar. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but surprisingly, right, Anna Navarro was the worst one of them all. I think she was very disrespectful to the Vice President.
And ironically, she's the one that claims to be the Republican, one of the Republicans, she and Alyssa Farah. But Anna Navarro actually considers herself to be a converted Republican, if you will. But she's not. She's a total leftist. And look, it's not just about the ideologies here, because we don't care. Look, if it makes sense, if J.D. Vance were to come on any program, any one of our shows, and say, listen, think of us what you want, but we've reunited 140,000 children that were lost during the Obama and Biden administrations to their families for whatever reason, I'd be cheering it. I don't care what your political stance is on that, but they can't do that. And you have a guy that goes on there, and we know JD Vance. He's a very deliberate individual, and he's not looking for gotcha. He's just going to give you the facts. And he goes on there and he gives them the facts. And to your point, for the most part, they were so very cordial. And I think they did listen. But it's a great get that you noticed Ana Navarro and the way she was sitting and the facial intonations of what she was making when he spoke. And that just, it tells you that she doesn't want to hear this message. She doesn't want to hear a clear message. She just wants to hear what she wants to hear. It was interesting to watch. I'll put it that way.
It really was. I want to go back to Whoopi Goldberg. Again, I believe that she was very respectful to the vice president. She actually cut Ana Navarro off several times, and actually going to commercial break once. Kevin told her, don't do that, when she kept cutting off the vice president. But Whoopi Goldberg did have a question on African Americans, the Black community in the United States. Let's take a listen to that exchange.
Color in your family.
Sure.
So when you see, things, the Emmett Till stuff coming down, or them doing all kinds of removal of information of Black heroes, how does that sit with you?
Well, what exactly are you talking about, Whoopi? Because you just, I know Emmett Till was the kid. No, I want to know what she's.
You don't know what I'm talking
to your
about.
actual point.
So in a lot of the museums, there's so many. Where they're taking down the actual history that happened in this country. Slavery happened. All kinds of stuff happened. And it seems that it has been very easy for this administration to remove that, and also to denigrate Black folks who have worked their behinds off to get this American dream. How do you, you know better.
So Sonny, that was actually a very helpful intervention, because I think the story you're talking about is where.
So, Kevin, I have to mention something here. She couldn't give any facts. She stuttered and stumbled and couldn't really answer his question when he said, what exactly are you talking about? Because I'm confused at your question. That's number one. Number two, if I remember correctly, it wasn't the Republicans or anyone in the Trump administration who were tearing down statues of America's history during the Biden administration, correct? It was protesters and Democrats doing that all across the country. Number three, if you look at the stats during Trump's first term, Black unemployment reached a record low of 5%. That was in 2019, the lowest since records began. Black poverty fell to record lows under the Trump administration. Median Black household incomes reached record highs. That means Black Americans were making more money to bring home to their families than they ever had. Record highs. So what is Whoopi talking about here?
Well, the first thing that came to mind as she started to speak was, hey, Whoopi, have you really been paying attention to the SPLC? Are you serious? Yeah. You still want to bring up racism at a time when you've just put a Nazi in office in Maine, or as your candidate in Maine, and the SPLC, by the way, new story today that one of the persons not only funneled $1.2 million to a white nationalist, but turns out it was her boyfriend. And this is a woman that's over the SPLC. Answering your question directly about what were they doing, you should notice when he wanted clarification about Emmett Till, the audience is like, boo, like he doesn't even know what they're talking about. And he was like, no, I just want clarity. And even when she gives it, to your point, she doesn't know what she's saying. She wants to make people believe that the Trump administration is so racist. This is the administration that started the First Step, Second Chance Act, and freed many Black people from prison that were in there for nonviolent drug-related crimes, and appointed the lady Alice, forget her last name, but Johnson, Alice Johnson, as the person who's heading up an entire part of the Trump administration to do more of that on behalf of Black people. Donald Trump got rid of all the DEI stuff. And what she's talking about is they're erasing history. That is absolute abject nonsense that Donald Trump is erasing Black history. He honors Black history. He's done more for the HBCUs, that's the historically Black colleges and universities, they have funding now that they used to have to beg for every administration. Now it's automatic. Now, I'm not a fan of HBCUs because I think black kids should be able to go to I almost said prison, but to colleges and universities anywhere they want. But the idea that he honors the tradition of those Republican started universities is pretty amazing. And you could go down the list. Now, you were reading off all the statistics that have improved for black folks. But to live in the world of Whoopi Goldberg, you would have to believe that black people, there are no Oprah Winfreys, there are no Denzel Washingtons, there are no LeBron Jameses, there are no Tiger Woods, and there are no doctors and lawyers and engineers and whatever who are black people in this country. How have we possibly survived in this country where we've been thriving for decades? And that's just the go back, that is the fallback hammock of the left. And the view is to say, black people have no chance in America, as you sit there with two black women who are multimillionaires on a show. Think about this. 40% of the view is two black women, is black women who complain incessantly about the condition of blacks.
I agree. And it just boggles my mind because, again, I go back to her not being able to give him examples, stuttering and stumbling. At least provide some facts. But isn't that the typical Democrat? They spew all this hate, they spew all this nonsense, but when you ask them, like J.D. Vance did, Whoopi, what exactly are you talking about? She still couldn't really give an answer there. So then fast forward to later in the day, he was on a media tour yesterday, the vice president. He then went on Fox's The Five, and that's always fun. One of my favorite shows to watch. I love Greg Gutfeld. Jessica Tarlov, I tolerate her. I've grown to like her in a sense because I like to hear other sides and points of view as well, not just the Republican side. I like to hear from Democrats as well. However, she did have this exchange with the vice president over the Iran war. Let's watch that.
Axios report last night was meaningful, where they said that CIA Director Ratcliffe, Rubio, and Hegseth, based on American intelligence, were doubting the kind of results they thought we could get out of this deal.
So Jessica, let me address a couple of things, because I think you're making the same mistake, unfortunately, that a lot of the Iranian propagandists make when they talk about this,
like
which
the
is
Wall Street Journal?
They talk about the benefits to the Iranians without any of the things the Iranians would have to give up and have to change in order to get those benefits. So you mentioned a $300 billion fund. I got to be very clear about this. Not a single cent of American money under any circumstance, no matter what the Iranians do, goes to Iran. Not a single cent of American money.
Other money.
Here's what this says. This says, for example, let's say that the United Arab Emirates, who have been a great ally, let's say they want to invest in a power plant in Iran. What this deal provides is that if the Iranians have done everything we require them to do, then we will allow the United Arab Emirates to do that. Because they can't do that right now without American approval. So we're fundamentally saying if the Iranians transform how they interact with the world, we will transform how the world economy interacts with Iran. But if they don't do any of that stuff, they don't get any of these benefits. So I think all the Democrats who are saying, well, the Iranians get all these things, they don't get anything unless there's been a complete transformation of how Iran interacts with the world. That would be a huge win for America. And to Jesse's point, if they don't do any of these things, we don't give them anything, they don't receive anything, their nuclear program is still destroyed, their military is still destroyed, their missile program and industrial base is still destroyed. We fundamentally have transformed the Middle East. Whether they comply or not, this is just icing on the cake, assuming they do all the right things.
Can I just take a look? And then obviously it goes to Greg. So I guess two things. One, there's already been reporting that the Qataris have been paying off the Iranians to get them to.
I've seen the report, by the way, and we have a great relationship with the Qataris. It's just
no money has exchanged hands. Iran has not gotten a single dollar from any Gulf partners. And again, lots of criticism from the Republican side of this as well. It is a bipartisan concern.
Well, I think, look, some of the criticism comes from the fact that if Donald Trump were elected the supreme leader of Iran, the Democrats would still say that the United States had lost this.
Kevin, I'm so glad he cleared this up, because all you're hearing from the Democrats right now and rhinos is that America, as part of this deal, is sending all of this money to Iran, and that's not the case. If they abide by the deal, the Trump administration wants to make sure that everyone is successful, not just Iran, but also other countries, our allies. And so that money would go to our allies investing in Iran, and it's a win-win for everyone. But it's not the Trump administration doing what former administrations did and just putting all of this cash in a briefcase and shipping it over to Iran.
You got to love this exchange and this whole thing. First of all, we've got the United States and Israel who went in and bombed Iran and did what they needed to do, that everybody in the world needed to happen. And you have Democrat naysayers saying it shouldn't have happened. The entire Middle Eastern world united with Israel and America against Iran. I mean, that feat in and of itself should get Donald Trump, on Mount Rushmore. But when you look at Tarloff, this is what always cracks me up about the left, Vanessa. She has no information. She has only reports of things that nobody else knows either. And if you notice, she goes, well, it's the Wall Street Journal that said it. Really? So when did the Wall Street Journal overrule the vice president who sits in on all the meetings? He's in all the intelligence briefings. He's in everything that's part of the strategy of this war. And he's sitting there right with her. And she dismisses the information from the source and says, well, what about the Wall Street Journal? And then if you notice, she slipped in, well, some of your Republicans also disagree. Again, a bunch of Republicans who aren't sitting in on the briefings and know nothing. And what's interesting is that the left always refers to somebody else whenever they don't have it on their own. See, when we're talking about what we're talking about now, this is my opinion. If I were to talk to you about the war, I would say, well, listen, on balance, it looks pretty good for the United States. We have Donald Maximus Trump, our gladiator in the arena. And what has he done? He's destroyed Iran's Navy. He's destroyed their Air Force. He's pretty much wiped out their ground troops. He's wiped out their inability for drone and long-range missile production. And he's wiped out their satellite infrastructure, all their surface-to-air missile infrastructure. I'd say we're in pretty good shape. Now he's gone after their crypto. He's gone after all of the banking. He's gotten all the partners in the region to cut them off. The rial, which was when Trump's first administration, which was trading at about 16,000 to $1, is now trading at 1.75 million to 1. I mean, he's decimated their economy. Inflation on regular stuff, food products and things like that, is over 200%. So the entirety of the region is pretty much up in arms about what they're paying for food and other products. The sanctions are still in place. I mean, it's like a boxer, the champion, who keeps knocking the guy to the mat, and the people, the left, is saying, you know what, the champion may very well get tired of knocking this guy down and he may fade. It is the most unbelievable when you watch these people defend Iran because they so are invested in Donald Trump losing. And let's not forget, everything that people were concerned about was, oh, we're going to get into this long, protracted war. And here we've done everything that I just described in a matter of months, including ceasefires. And Iran is practically begging. And I didn't mention, we took out 3 layers of quote, leadership. And Iran is practically begging for a deal. And the Democrats are still going, Trump's losing. And it's funny, J.D. Vance at the very end says, Donald Trump could be appointed supreme leader of Iran, and the left would still say we're losing. What a great comment.
Absolutely.
That was one for the books.
It is. And when you're looking at a regime and a communist country to this magnitude who has been, terroristic to their own citizens for decades,
Yes.
not only to the world, but to their own citizens, this is not an overnight deal. And I think the Democrats wanted the American people, and the rhinos wanted the American people to believe Trump's losing. This didn't happen overnight. Well, this isn't a 30-minute episode of your favorite sitcom on evening television. This is a real-world problem that President Trump and his administration is trying to solve, and it takes time. And so they kept huffing and puffing, and gas prices are going up. Look, I didn't like going to the gas pump either because the prices were higher than I would have liked. However, you know what, Kevin? Every time I pumped gas and I looked at the price, you know what I thought about? And this is a true story. The people of Iran. I can do this for a little while for the people of Iran. They're murdering their own citizens. They are terrifying the women there. They're murdering the women there. This is for them. And so it took a little time. But it happened. A peace deal is in place, and they're going to make sure that it's lasting and that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, and the
Where
entire
are we
world
though?
is
Where are
now
we with
safer.
gas? Where are we though?
It's going back
What's
down.
the end of? First of all, the timing of this, we're talking 3 months from when this started back in April. So from a time frame perspective, we're not in a protracted war, and in fact, it was over within weeks. It's just the Iranians didn't want to play Tommy Tough Butt. So go ahead and play that. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump said exactly what he was going to do. He says, I won't go to war unless I have an absolute idea of what that winning is going to look like. And nobody in the world, including the EU, would disagree that we needed to do something with Iran. And what's funny, everybody talks about this is the same deal that Obama cut. Really, if it's the same deal that Obama cut, how is it that Obama's JCPOA said Iran would not be able to get a nuclear weapon? And why did we bomb their nuclear facility? Because they were getting a nuclear weapon. So they make it the equivalent of the JCPOA. Did Obama bomb their Navy? Did he wipe out the Navy? Did he wipe out the Air Force? Did he wipe out most of their ground troops and all the other things I described earlier? Short answer, no. So if it's the same, I'll tell you how it's the same. One of them did a bunch of talking about what he was going to do, and the other one acted on what the world wanted to see. And what the dirty little elephant in the room here is every Democrat, every nation in this on the planet knew what Iran was doing. None of them wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon because they know what they would do with it. They claim they didn't have long range missile systems, and they did because they were bombing, in the areas where they supposedly their missiles couldn't reach. So Donald Trump did the world a favor. I don't want nuclear weapons from Iran in the future of my kids and grandkids, and I don't think many other people in the world do either.
You're absolutely right. And we're going to continue to follow this. We're going to talk more. President Trump is at the G7 summit in France. We're going to get to that a little later in the show. But there's a lot trending right now. I want to cover more topics with you. Elon Musk making headlines, becoming the first trillionaire following the IPO of SpaceX. His net worth is a whopping 1.1. There's estimates, Kevin, between 1.1 and 1.4 trillion dollars. Most of that wealth, though, is tied up in stock holdings rather than cash. But still, wow, the world's first trillionaire. But there's a headline I want to talk to you about that's not circulating.
Well, I want to say this, Jessica.
Go ahead.
I mean, Vanessa, real quickly, he's the first African American, also trillionaire, too. So let's not forget that.
And that's what I was going to ask you about. That is what's not being discussed here. And he is the epitome of the American dream. You know, let's talk about Elon. Everyone knows that he was born in South Africa. That was in 1971. Then he moved to Canada, Kevin, in 1988. Then he went to the U.S. He came to the U.S. in 1992. He went to college here. He became a U.S. citizen in 2002. I mean, talk about the American dream. Born in South Africa, goes to Canada, comes to the U.S. to college, works hard, becomes a U.S. citizen, and is now the world's first trillionaire from South Africa. Let's talk about that. What does that mean to you?
I got to tell you, what a story. So Elon came at 17 years old with $2,000, and he built everything that you just described. And in 2000, I believe it was 2000, and forget what year, he started SpaceX. I want to say it was 2002. He started SpaceX. And then by 2008, he claims that he says that was the worst year of his life because both SpaceX and Tesla he thought he was going to lose. He thought they were going to go bankrupt. And if you look even before that, where he was part of the PayPal thing, his first company sold for $309 million. Then he got into PayPal. They kicked him out of PayPal. Peter Thiel was running that company when he joined there. And I mean, there were so many times the guy could have just said, "I'm done. I've got my money," but he kept going because he was never motivated by money. He was motivated by invention. And I'm going to save people the time because in terms of his history, but I will tell you this: the early part of his life, he was hospitalized because he was bullied. Almost died. He almost died because he got pushed down some stairs. And he stayed in the hospital for a long time to heal from that. And all that adversity, and he ends up becoming the world's first trillionaire. which of course the Democrats are hung up on that word. He's a trillionaire. And what cracks me up is I went back and looked at all the different the Democrats who said Elon Musk is stupid, and they said he's a grifter. And you think about the things that this man has created. He is, I don't even call him the Da Vinci of our times because that's an insult to Elon Musk. Da Vinci had a lot of great ideas. Elon Musk takes great ideas and he brings them to life. And that's what he's done. And if you look at all of his inventions, if we just focused on Neuralink and the idea of what he's done with people that are suffering from Lou Gehrig's disease and what he's doing with his robots. I was telling somebody, imagine your great grandmother or somebody in your family, your great granddaughter or great grandson, years from now, never having to worry about how their age, that they don't have to be dependent upon a family member to take care of them because they've got an Optimus robot that would call up the self-driving car and take your 85-year-old great granddaughter or whatever to the grocery store or to the opera or whatever, and actually be a protector that can lift them up off the ground when they fall and alert the emergency people, protect the house, etc. I mean, we're just getting started with what Elon Musk has given to the world, and yet AOC has the nerve to say he's the most stupid billionaire. Now she's got to change that to trillionaire. She says he's the most stupid billionaire and he's on the grift. When he borrows money from the government, he pays it back before time with interest. That is the type of guy we have here. And we are so fortunate in America that that guy is here. Now, could he do that in South Africa? Could he do it in Canada? I don't think he could. But I'm glad that for whatever reason, he decided to do it here in America. And what should have been one of the proudest moments for this country to say, we created the first trillionaire, the richest person on the planet. And by the way, Elon is not sitting around making money angels with his money. All of it's paper. He could lose it all tomorrow for all intents and purposes. But the Democrats are focused on the number. Bill Maher said a person should only be limited to 1% of GDP in terms of wealth. Why are you putting a limit on it? It's just like saying we bake the pie and this is the only pie we can ever bake. We can make more pies. We can make the economy bigger. The world economy can be bigger, which, by the way, is what President Trump is trying to do with his policies, is say your world can be much bigger if you decide to make your country great again. So all of this speaks to the MAGA. It speaks to America First. It speaks to the American dream. It speaks to every aspect of what we go through. When I was a little kid growing up in the 60s, I wanted to be a Donald Trump or an Elon Musk. Now the Democrats would tell you, you don't want to be that. You don't want to be an inventor. You don't want to be somebody who changes lives, who revolutionizes a space program. Starlink and Neuralink, if he stopped there, he should go in the annals of history as one of the greatest human beings on Earth. But he keeps going. And if they leave him alone, I don't know what he's capable of because my imagination doesn't extend that far.
And mine doesn't either. But, we always say there will never be another President Trump. And I firmly believe there will never be another Elon Musk as well. He is one of a kind. Love to see his success. You're not going to get any negativity over here, Kevin, when it comes to Elon Musk. I want to see his net worth continue to grow because I know when it grows, Absolutely. That means he's doing something wonderful for mankind. And he's just great to watch. He's just one of those guys who you just can't get enough of when he's on a stage or speaking. We only have a short time left. I want to bring up this to another headline that really hasn't taken off yet. A lot of people don't know, but the FBI announced a White House UFC terror plot that was foiled. The Freedom 250 event was this past Sunday. Afterwards, the FBI announced that 5 suspects were arrested in multiple states for an alleged plot that involved explosive drones that would have been used to create panic in the crowd. Then, as attendees evacuated, they say that they were planning for snipers to be positioned to fire on fleeing victims and high-profile targets. And that's not it. Authorities say a second wave of attackers were planned to move toward the White House. the security checkpoint. So this was a well thought out plot. Thank God for the FBI. We are very grateful for them. Whoever tipped them off on this, praise God for them. They were able to foil this well thought out attack on that UFC fight, and they stopped it before terror could strike yet again. But I was in DC on Sunday and I had so many questions, Kevin, on if I was going to UFC fight. And I thought about it, but then I thought, nope, it's going to be a security nightmare because the security, they hire agencies, third-party agencies to come in along with the Secret Service, the FBI, the local police. I mean, the military. There's so much security there and they do a wonderful job, but there's a lot of crazies out there as well. So I steered clear from the White House on Sunday night just because I wanted to get back home safely. But they are trying to get to they're trying to get to President Trump so bad. This is yet another attack that we know about against the president and these high profile people who were in the audience.
Nobody in modern history has shown more commitment to a bad idea than the Democrats. They keep going after President Trump, and he thwarts them at every turn. And oh, by the way, to me, this was just a bad Hollywood movie script. I mean, if you really think, before we even get into the politics of it all, the staggering confidence required to come up with this plan. Look, I'm a martial artist. I don't have time to tell you all the stories, but here's what I'll tell you. When you get that many black belts, that many bad behind guys in a room, and you say you're going to come in and take care of us, just that wave alone, you got to get through. You got to get through the gladiators before you get to the Secret Service, before you get to the snipers, before you get to the military backup, before you get to President Trump, who, by the way, is gonna fight pretty hard himself. I'm just saying, if the Democrats are this determined to do this, what is your problem? Now, here's what I think would be most interesting to the audience. I want you to ask yourself, what would the media be saying about, because this didn't get a whole lot of press, what would the media be saying if the number of times that President Trump has been, accosted in some form or another, if that had happened to Obama, if they had shot Obama and barely missed his ear, if they had all these different plots that when he was golfing that day and they had those guys and all the other times, but I mean, besides Butler and including this, what would the media be saying about the number of times that the Republicans have keep trying to take out Barack Obama, but nobody cared? Barack Obama was a horrible president, but you know what? We lived through it. And I know they're gonna people that, oh, Kevin, they went after Barack Obama. Nobody has gone after Barack Obama or Joe Biden with the level of fierceness that they've gone after President Trump. Look at everything you just described. On the 250th anniversary of this country, at an event that everybody should be celebrating because it was a celebration of the American spirit in many ways, done through these gladiators, as what I like to call them, these warriors. And we should all be celebrating it the same way we should be celebrating Elon Musk, and the way we should be celebrating the SPLC is actually creating racism because we've gotten rid of it, and we should be celebrating all these other things, but we're not. And it makes me, it cracks me up that they would even think to do this, to target such an event.
You're right. And you said, but we're not. Some of us are, some of us aren't. It's the left and the crazies out there trying to get to President Trump. But at the end of the day, there is no cure for TDS. These people have it. There's no medicine for it. There's no counselor that can help them for it. It's just alive and well. They just don't like Trump. They want to bring him down in so many different ways. They want him to lose. They want his endorsements to lose. They want his economy to fail. They want the world to fail, and they want to take him down in any which way possible. But he's still standing. The American dream is still here. We are going to celebrate, Kevin, America's 250th birthday all summer long. We're going to continue to do it and trust that our great law enforcement and investigators and military will have us protected here in the homeland. Always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for stopping by. You have a network. Real quick, how can people follow you, Kevin?
The Kevin Jackson Network is where you can find all my work. I hope, hopefully people will come over and take a look.
I hope they do. You're amazing. Like I said, always a pleasure to have you on. Hope you'll come back on and see us soon.
Well,
All right, let's go back to the G7 summit now being held in France. President Trump having back-to-back meetings with discussions on Iran, Ukraine, trade, artificial intelligence, and growing concerns about China's influence. A major focus, as you know, Trump's newly announced agreement with Iran. He plans to hold a press conference. He says reading the agreement word for word to get ahead of fake press.
Our Navy, because the naval blockade was unbelievable. But I'll not only release it, I'll probably have a press conference and read it to you word by word so that the press covers it accurately. Because it's a very important document, and unlike Obama, who could have destroyed the Middle East with a horrible JCPOA, it is the worst agreement. That was a road to a nuclear weapon. Mine is a wall against a nuclear weapon. I mean, I see these people say, but we already had one. That was the worst. He paid a fortune for it. We pay nothing. We don't pay. There was some statement, we're going to spend $300 billion. No, we're not. We're allowed to go and invest if we wanted to someday in the future. We have no obligation whatsoever. It could be that Iran will turn out to be successful when they have oil. But if we left a week ago, just left, before the last two attacks, it would have taken them 20 years to rebuild Iran.
President Trump also meeting with Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky and signaled a willingness to increase pressure on Russia as efforts continue to end the war in Ukraine. We'll continue to follow President Trump's G7 summit appearance and tell you more about today's schedule in our news to go later on in the show. Let's go to Washington now. The Save America Act remains stalled in the Senate despite continued pressure from President Trump and his allies to bring it up for a vote. As you know, the House passed legislation in February, but Senate leadership has repeatedly acknowledged the bill currently lacks the votes needed to overcome procedural hurdles. Trump has made the measure a top priority, and our Allison Steinberg is tracking down congressmen once again to try to get answers on what's the holdup.
President Trump has now appointed you to get the Save America Act across the finish line. What is your plan to do that, considering the pushback from many Senate Republicans?
Well, he's going to have to help me get them change their vote. I don't think we have the votes to change the filibuster. I do want to try to help him get the Save America through. I think we do some stuff in reconciliation. But at the end of the day, senators get a vote, and it's a math problem. So I'm hoping we keep pushing it every week. I'd love to vote on the Save America Act every week until the election to define the difference between Republicans and Democrats. So if I had to explain to somebody from Mars what's the difference between a Democrat and Republican, I would say the Save America Act. We're for it, they're against it.
You mentioned putting the Save America Act into a reconciliation.
As much, you can't put the Save America in, but you can make down payments on it. So
what about the Senate parliamentarian? I mean, do you foresee that being a road?
Well, I don't see anybody changing. You still got votes. Let's say she changed her mind tomorrow. You don't have enough votes, according to the vote tallies I've seen, to eliminate the filibuster. So let's just keep voting. Make people accountable for their votes.
Senator, what's up?
Senator Kennedy, President Trump has now called for the Save America Act to be included in both FISA and the Pentagon reconciliation bill. What's the path forward for this, and how do we get this across the finish line?
I'm fine including it. I sponsored it during one of the vote-a-ramas for our reconciliation bill. The problem is the votes aren't there. But if the president wants us to give it another shot, I'm fine with it. But if you want to restore the confidence of the American people in elections, both Democrats and Republicans and independents, here's what you do. Two simple rules. You have to prove you are who you say you are in order to vote. Now, we can discuss the forms of identification, but that's rule number one. Rule number two, we need to go back to having an election day, not an election month. And by that, I mean you can't have elections drag on 30, 45, 10 days. Now, if it's a really close election and they need extra time, we can make exceptions for that. But But we need to know who the winner is on election night, because when they prolong it, people just assume the worst. And if you do those two things, people will believe in elections again. In terms of how you vote, that's up to the states. If you want to vote by mail, if you want to vote absentee, if you want to vote on election day, that's up to the states. But those are my two rules.
Senator Scott, we've heard time and time again from Republicans and Leader Thune that there's just not the votes to get the Save America Act done. We've heard repeatedly from Senator Mike Lee that if we just implement the standing filibuster or the talking filibuster the way it's intended to work, that it could actually happen and have a better chance. What does Thune think about this? I mean, is this possible?
Well, you'd have to ask Leader Thune about it. But I mean, I think it's an important bill. It's over 80% of Americans support it. Republicans, Democrats, Independent, and so I think I think Mike Lee's right. We ought to let's see if we can get it done.
Yeah, and then also I asked Leader Thune.
That's how the Civil Rights Act was done.
Yeah, he just mentioned that actually. I just asked Leader Thune about the defund the Taliban bill, which passed in the House over 11 months ago now. He said he doesn't know anything about it, hasn't seen it, doesn't have any plan to vote on it. Is there any way you can get the message across to him to prioritize this? Because we're sending $40 million a week to the Taliban.
It makes no sense.
No.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll figure it out.
We appreciate that.
For now, the Save America Act remains one of the biggest unresolved battles on Capitol Hill as President Trump continues again to push Congress for action ahead of the 2026 midterms. When we come back, a system stirring in the Gulf of America. Texas, Louisiana, heads up. You're getting a super soaking. We have the latest on the storm with meteorologist Dana Melanson next.
Welcome to Vocal, the free speech social app that gives you a platform to amplify your voice. Speak freely, connect boldly, and be part of a growing movement for truth, faith, and freedom. Want to know what's happening right now? The Now Playing feature shows you exactly who's live and what's streaming in real time. Check out the show's feed, a non-stop lineup including LINDELLTV News 24/7, shows and on-demand programming all in one place. Connect with your favorite host and never miss a show. Explore the featured page for quick access to LINDELLTV's top shows. Follow your favorites and watch their newest content flow right into your feed. And when they go live on Vocal, you can join the live chat and be part of the action. Ask questions, share your thoughts, even help shape future shows. Stay informed on issues around securing our elections by following your state's Cause of America account. Join a group and connect on a deeper level, from faith and freedom to the future of our nation. Go to vocal.com or download the app today and be a part of the mission to save our country.
We're back with a system in the Gulf bringing heavy rain, flash flooding, and coastal impacts to the Texas and Louisiana coasts. The greatest threat isn't wind, it's water. Some areas could see several inches of rain through the end of the week. Here's more from meteorologist Dana Melanson.
Vanessa, the excessive rainfall and, of course, the flooding conditions that have been ramping itself up all across Texas, really making a lot of headlines, as we've been seeing for the last several mornings. Flood rescues, a lot of it in central Texas. This morning, we're focusing on the Texas and Louisiana Gulf Coast, where the development of potential tropical cyclone 1 continues to evolve. We can see the amount of moisture that's continuing to fall on, again, keep in mind, very rain-soaked grounds from Houston to Lake Charles, all the way to New Orleans, Louisiana, which, by the way, expected from, say, Lafayette to New Orleans to really get the biggest bulk of the rainfall from, say, Thursday evening on. We'll see how that plays out. But we are, again, watching the potential tropical cyclone 1, which, if named, would be Arthur. Plenty of moisture still continuing to stream in on the Texas Gulf Coast. The latest numbers on potential tropical storm 1 would be 28.0 north, 96.7 west. The positioning of this storm makes it about 255 miles southwest of Lake Charles. It is moving at the northeast at 6 miles per hour and at 30-mile-an-hour sustained winds around the center of circulation. None of those stats have actually changed other than the positioning of the storm. So here's the timing of potential tropical storm 1 would be 28.0 north, 96.7 west, and by 1 o'clock this afternoon should be right around the Lake Jackson area. By early morning hours tomorrow, say 1 o'clock, just south of Alexandria, and all of the areas that you can see in this cone of uncertainty will be inundated with more rainfall. We do have a tropical storm warning in effect from Sabine Pass to Morgan City, Louisiana, with a tropical storm watch down to Sargent, Texas, just outside of Palacios. Vanessa, what we're looking at now are the expected rain totals through this afternoon. Anywhere between 3 and 4 inches of rain between Searim State Park, South Jefferson County, Texas, Beaumont, Port Arthur, Orange at 3 to 4 inches, all the way north into areas around Opelousas, Alexandria, Louisiana, where they could see an additional 4 to 6 inches of rain just today. Now, later on tonight will occur more rainfall, and that storm will continue to push toward the east, giving more threat to a lot of the areas around south central and southeast Louisiana. We'll keep you updated right here. Vanessa?
All right, thanks, Dana. Residents in those areas are being urged to monitor forecasts and prepare for rapidly changing conditions. Emergency managers are also watching for the possibility of isolated tornadoes and minor storm surge along coastal communities. Happy hurricane season. We're on Tropic Watch. Stay tuned for more. Up next, here on My Mornings, chaos erupts in Minnesota. The angry protesters are back. We'll tell you why next. And as we go to break, a reminder to follow me on social media. I am on X, Vocal, Truth Social, Instagram, and YouTube. We are live on YouTube right now. Oh, and also if you're on Rumble, we're live there as well under LINDELLTV. I am chatting with our viewers. Come join in on the conversation. We'll be right back.
Well, hello, everyone. Well, I'm turning 65, and let me tell you, Medicare has me confused. All the junk mail and the robocalls and everything else, it honestly feels like they rigged the system just to confuse us. Well, that's why I partnered and working with Chapter. They're independent and they don't work for big insurance. They work for us. In fact, they're the only advisor that compares every single plan nationwide to find what actually fits your needs. If you're on the right plan, they tell you. If you're not, they're going to help you switch. And it's completely free. Just last year, seniors saved about $1,100 by finding a better plan with Chapter. So call Chapter at 234-LINDELL or go to askchapter.org/Lindell.
Talk is cheap when it comes to saving our country. We're not just any cell phone service provider. We're Patriot Mobile. It's not enough to simply talk about values. We live them. Defending life, protecting our First and Second Amendments, and celebrating our military and first responder heroes. We're boots on the ground making a difference. We're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider with nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks and 100% U.S.-based customer service. Join Patriot Mobile today and make an impact every time you use your cell phone.
America's founders warned that without knowledge and virtue, no nation can remain free. Yet through the steady infiltration of Marxist ideology, we have been stripped of both, and we are no longer a moral and educated people. To save America, we must spark nothing less than a national renaissance. That's why you need Freedom Talk Magazine, the journal of truth and virtue. We cultivate enlightened thinking and principled living, offering unique insights into the issues and remarkable people defining our world. Sign up today for your free subscription to Freedom Talk Magazine and join the new American Renaissance.
Welcome back to My Mornings. Let's see how the markets are opening today. A live look at Wall Street from MarketWatch.com. You're looking at the big board, the Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ all up at this hour. Investors are focused on the conclusion of the Federal Reserve meeting and Fed Chair Kevin Warsh's first post-meeting press conference. Markets widely expect rates to remain unchanged. Also, falling oil prices are boosting sentiment. So it was a wonderful day yesterday, another good day so far today. So we'll keep an eye over on Wall Street. In your news to go, as you start your day, a quick glimpse of other news headlines we're following this morning. First in Minnesota, federal prosecutors have charged 15 people accused of conspiring to interfere with ICE operations. And the protesters, as you can see, they're not happy. They stormed the federal courthouse outside, denouncing the arrests, calling them politically motivated and an attack on free speech. Tensions escalated as federal officers moved in to disperse the crowd. U.S. Southern Command has announced another narco-terrorist strike. Officials confirmed the vessel was traveling along known narco-trafficking routes in the Eastern Pacific. One man on the boat was killed. There were 2 male survivors in which the U.S. Coast Guard activated search and rescue to capture them. No U.S. military forces were harmed. The U.S. Department of Labor has announced that Harley-Davidson is moving production back to the United States. The iconic American company is bringing jobs back home. Several models will return to facilities in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin as part of a new strategy called Back to the Bricks. This will support additional U.S. manufacturing jobs. So good news there. As you know, and again, just to reiterate, the president is in France again today for the G7 summit. Another packed day for him. Look at his schedule. At 8 a.m., he held an executive meeting. At 9:30, a working session with G7 leaders. At 11:30, a bilateral meeting with Egypt. At 12:30, a working lunch with G7 leaders. At 2:45, a bilateral meeting with India. At 3:30, a press conference. At 7, a dinner with the President of the French Republic. Jam-packed day. And after he's done with that dinner, he will head back home to the White House. And for all of your news headlines today and every day, you can log on to LINDELLTV.com. You can also download the LINDELLTV app, which is free in your app store. Never miss a beat or a broadcast with the LINDELLTV app. Now to our Bible verse of the day coming from the book of Philippians. The Bible says this: "For our citizenship is in heaven, from which also we eagerly wait for a Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ, who will transform the body of humble state into conformity with the body of his glory, by the exertion of the power that he has, even to subject all things to himself." And that is today's daily Bible verse. And we appreciate you being here with us today. That'll do it for us here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you all same time, same place tomorrow. And we leave you today with sights from Vermont. Good morning to everyone in the beautiful state of Vermont. We hope you all have a great day.
Mike Lindell here. The radical left and the deep state aren't just coming for our freedoms, they're coming after our money too. For years, they've been destroying our economy from the inside out with reckless spending, open borders, woke policies that crush our businesses. And now they've left us with an inflation disaster that's wiping out the savings of our hardworking families. They don't want us to be independent. They want us to be dependent on the government. Well, that's not going to happen on my watch. That's why I partner with American Independence Gold. It's a veteran-owned company that's helping patriotic Americans fight back by protecting our savings with real physical gold and silver. And right now they're giving away up to $15,000 in free silver and a free gold IRA kit. A portion of all the profits go to 9/11 first responders and veterans at the Tunnels to Towers Foundation. The deep state can't touch your gold, so visit MikeLindellGold.com or call 844-714-4653 right now. That's MikeLindellGold.com. Take back control. You know, most people think water's just about filtration, but in reality, it's about balance. What gets removed, what gets left behind, and how the water actually behaves once you drink it. Well, many traditional systems focus on one thing, removal. Reverse osmosis, for example, strips water down completely. It may sound ideal, but it removes minerals that our bodies need. The Century Wellness System was designed with a different philosophy. It removes common contaminants like chlorine, fluoride, and PFAS, while restoring key minerals like magnesium and improving alkalinity. It also does all this without tanks and without wastewater, and without requiring a complicated installation. It installs in about 15 minutes under your sink, so instead of overcorrecting, it brings your water back into balance. Please visit CenturyH2O.com and use promo code Lindell for 10% off your next purchase. Well, hello everyone. Well, I'm turning 65, and let me tell you, Medicare has me confused. All the junk mail and the robocalls and everything else, it honestly feels like they rigged the system just to confuse us. Well, that's why I partnered and working with Chapter. They're independent and they don't work for big insurance. They work for us. In fact, they're the only advisor that compares every single plan nationwide to find what actually fits your needs. If you're on the right plan, they tell you. If you're not, they're going to help you switch. And it's completely free. Just last year, seniors saved about $1,100 by finding a better plan with Chapter. So call Chapter at 234-LINDELL or go to askchapter.org/Lindell.
Talk is cheap when it comes to saving our country. We're not just any cell phone service provider. We're Patriot Mobile. It's not enough to simply talk about values. We live them. Defending life, protecting our First and Second Amendments, and celebrating our military and first responder heroes. We're boots on the ground making a difference. We're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider with nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks and 100% U.S.-based customer service. Join Patriot Mobile today and make an impact every time you use your cell phone.
America's founders warned that without knowledge and virtue, no nation can remain free. Yet through the steady infiltration of Marxist ideology, we have been stripped of both, and we are no longer a moral and educated people. To save America, we must spark nothing less than a national renaissance. That's why you need Freedom Talk Magazine, the journal of truth and virtue. We cultivate enlightened thinking and principled living, offering unique insights into the issues and remarkable people defining our world. Sign up today for your free subscription to Freedom Talk Magazine and join the new American Renaissance.
When you read one news source, you get one side. When you read 2 sources, you get an argument. Read 40 sources, and you get the truth.